Welcome to the CBT Nuggets CCENT video series, or what some people would call ICND1. My name is Jeremy Chera, and I'll be talking with you throughout this entire series. And I realize that this may be a first for many of you on two accounts. First off, it could be your first time with CBT Nuggets. Since this is the beginning of a Cisco certification track, you may have never seen another CBT Nuggets before. Second, it may be a first into the Cisco certification track, so in this introductory video, I want to talk about both. I want to first off talk about how we train at CBT Nuggets and set your expectations for the whole series. Second, I want to talk about what I believe to be the most valuable certification you could ever get. It's Cisco certification. Talk about why I believe that and what I believe to be the best path for you to go through Cisco certification. Talk about what employers are looking for, why they're looking for it, and so on. I'll then talk about getting the most from the series because I want you to be prepared as you go through here to get the most from it. So I'll give you some tips on just watching the series in general, and then I know many of you are taking the certification exam, so I want to give you some tips on preparing for the exam. Now, because of that, I would recommend that you begin the series with this video, just like you're doing now, and end the series with this video. Not the whole thing, maybe just the tips on preparing to take the exam, because that will refresh your mind on what is the best way to study for the certification test. Well, let me start off by talking about how we do what we do here at CBT Nuggets. And I realize I'm coming against 1,000 stereotypes that people have anytime they hear the words online training or e-learning. Most people, when they hear that, immediately get images in their mind of, well, boring. It's just somebody reading something to them that they could read from the screen themselves, if probably even faster. As a matter of fact, there's an extremely large company that shall remain nameless, who is large enough to produce online training for their own employees. And they did a study of how long the session would be maintained, meaning how long somebody would keep the window open for the online training titles. You know what the average was? 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And people would shut the window and I'm done with that. That's not what CBT Nuggets is about. CBT Nuggets is just like a classroom environment in that we have network diagrams that you'll be looking at and working through, a whiteboard, key facts, live demonstrations. It's just like you're there in a classroom. You just don't see me waving my hands around, jumping all around up and down in front of the classroom. And because of that, I will offer you my no falling asleep guarantee, meaning it's my goal, it's my job to keep this interesting enough, which I believe with Cisco is very easy to do because it's a very interesting topic, educational, and kind of entertaining all at the same time. Likewise, we gear everything around short, palatable sessions. That's why we have the name CBT Nuggets. Is the series consists of short little 30 minutes, that's our target mark, 30-minute sessions that you can come to, watch one or two of them, get the information you need, take a break, watch them on the road, watch them on a laptop, anywhere you want. Just, it's like watching a sitcom, I guess you could say. Just a 30-minute, you're in, you're out. Because of that, these 30-minute sessions have no fluff. I cut out all marketing junk and, the stuff that you typically have to listen through that just isn't that valuable to you. It has no script, meaning I don't read anything. And for me, that's much better because I can't imagine trying to read something to you and somehow make it fun at the same time. Now, I have to warn you, as we go through, there is no scripts. There may be times when I'm in a live demonstration showing you something and all of a sudden it blows up and I go, right, wasn't supposed to do that. And then we'll work through it together to try and figure out what the problem is. That's kind of part of the fun and kind of part of the real world as you're working with Cisco devices. Likewise, I may stutter from time to time. I may lose my train of thought. I may go off on some tangent that had what am I doing right now? Going off on some tangent that has nothing to do with anything that we're talking about, but I guarantee you I'll bring it back in and it will make sense in the end. So CBT Nuggets is different in that sense, that it is kind of a fun, entertainable, educationable way to go through this information. With that, let me move into the Cisco certification track and the certification program. I started this video by saying Cisco certification is the most valuable certification you could ever get, and here's why. I've gone through many vendor certification programs like Novell and Microsoft. I have a CNE in NetWare 4 and 5. I have an MCSE in Windows NT and Windows 2000. And when I got those certifications, they were, kind of monumental, and I got a cool plaque in the mail, or actually it was a certificate, and some logos to use on my business card, but that was about it. It's all the vendors could really do. They just said, okay, well, you're now certified, go on your way, and may the force be with you. With Cisco, on the other hand, when you get Cisco certifications, employers are looking for you. The reason is because Cisco supports their certified people, unlike any other company, by giving employers discounts on Cisco equipment for hiring you. Meaning they have these different partner roles that agencies and organizations can achieve with Cisco. And the higher your partner relationship is, the more discount you get on Cisco equipment and the more support you get and things like that. And the only way to become a partner is, you guessed it, to hire certified individuals for your company. So employers are looking for you, and the higher your certification, of course, the higher the partner level is to achieve, and the higher the discount. So it's good news to get Cisco certified. And don't worry, you still get the certificate, you still get the logos. Those aren't gone. You just now get the benefit that employers need you, which is very valuable. Because of that, Cisco certification is one of the most difficult to achieve in the industry as well. Their exams are extremely real world, meaning it's not just one of those things where you can study a book and read the bullets and go, oh, okay, Cat 5 cable goes 100 meters and there's the fact, answer that next on the exam. It's not those kinds of questions. The questions, sure, they have multiple choice, but it's more of scenario multiple choice, and I'll talk about that as we talk about the exam itself. They have simulations. They have testlets, which are scenarios that tie into simulations. A lot of stuff goes in there. The CCNA program in 2007 was also revised to become essentially more difficult. That's where the CCENT certification was introduced. They said, if people are going to get a CCNA, they really need to know what they're doing. They really need to know a lot about a lot. So CCENT is how to set up a Cisco network for a small business, and I'll talk about that specifically on the next slide. CCNA is focusing now more on medium to large businesses, and when you move into the CCNP, again, talk about that on the next slide, you're moving more into the enterprise. Let's look at the Cisco certification track as a whole. First off, you can see the CCENT and CCNA are the foundations of the entire program. So you have to begin here to really move into the CCVP, CCNT, all of the deeper certifications that we'll talk about in just a moment. Now, there's multiple ways you can go about getting the CCENT and CCNA. The most common is going the two-test route, meaning take the ICND 1 exam, which matches up to the CCNENT, and you get your first level certification, and then passing ICND 2 as the second exam will give you your CCNA. Now, just passing ICND 2 without passing 1 will not grant you your CCNA. You actually will have nothing if you pass ICND 2. Well, you'll have the second exam out of the way. You can take them in any order. Now, first question is, how long can I wait after taking ICND 1 before I take ICND without any expiration or anything like that? The answer is 3 years. Now, most people won't wait that amount of time, but that's an option. You can take ICND 1 and then 3 years later, latest, pass ICND 2 and have your CCNA. And at that point, you will be a CCENT and CCNA with a new expiration of 3 years. Passing any lower, or I should say higher level exam will automatically renew all of your lower level certifications for 3 or more years. So that should give you a tip for the future. If you get your CCNT or CCNA, and then you pass one of the potentially 4 CCNP exams, that will automatically renew your CCNA and CCENT for 3 more years. So Cisco makes it beneficial to you to move on in your certification track rather than just retaking the same old exams every 3 years. They also have the one test wonder path. And I'm hesitant to even throw this one out there, but there is a single CCNA exam that you can pass, and it will automatically grant you your CCNA and your CCENT at the same time. Now, it's very tempting to go after that exam because people, are it's easier to take one exam, right? And you only have to pay for one exam and only sit through one exam. That's true. However, keep in mind that CCNA is designed for people that have an expiring certification, meaning they're an expiring CCNA, and they just want to retake it again. So they've got the experience, they've got the certification already under their belt, and they just want to renew it for 3 more years. That's what this one is designed for. However, Cisco says, by the way, if you can also pass that and you don't have anything, you'll get your CCNA as well. So it is a very difficult exam, to say the least. I will say the biggest thing you're fighting on CCNA that you don't have to fight as much on ICND 1 and ICND 2 is time, meaning you're rushed against the clock to get through that exam. Whereas with ICND 1 and ICND 2, sure, you have a time limit, but it's nowhere near as intense as taking the CCNA. So once you have your CCNA under your belt, you can move into any one of the 3 other major certification programs. There are others out there, it's just these are the ones most people go after. Statistically, most people will go after their CCNP, which is a focus in depth on routing and switching. Now, once you get your CCNP, it is 4 more exams to achieve that, so it's quite an accomplishment to get that, but you are considered a extremely proficient network engineer in the routing and switching arena. Some people will go after the CCSP first, which is a security professional. It's 5 exams to go after that. Or some people will go after the CCVP first, which is also 5 exams. In my opinion, it is more valuable to go after the CCNP first and then transfer over into one of your specialties if you'd like to. The reason for that is the VP and the SP, while they do stand on their own, they really assume you know a lot about the CCNP that really, well, it's not in the CCNA, it's in the CCNP, and they assume you know that stuff moving into there. I'm not saying you can't move from the CCNA into the CCNP or the VP. I'm just saying you'll be more well-rounded if you go after the CCNP first because you'll have a good foundation of routing and switching. I have all 3 of these, the VP, the NP, and the SP. And just from my experience, through many of the topics in VP and SP, I got in my mind, I'm like, wow, if I didn't know what I knew about routing and switching, I don't think I would fully understand this concept. So take that for what it's worth. Now, 2% of anyone who has ever taken a Cisco certification exam will go on to attempt the CCIE. It is 2 exams. One is a written qualification exam, which is $300. The other is the practical lab exam, which is $1,250 plus travel expenses because you have to travel to one of Cisco's CCIE locations and sit through a grueling 8-hour lab exam where you build a full-blown network infrastructure. The CCIE that you focus on, you can see routing and switching and voice and security, is the type of equipment that you'll be tested on, expected to implement. CCIE has long been considered I guess you could call it the PhD of Cisco certifications. It's like getting your doctorate because it is very difficult. Not many people pass the first time, so you have to go back multiple times. But all of these are explained fully on the Cisco certification website. That is my best resource if you're looking for the facts of what is the time limit for the exam, what is going to be tested on the exams, but do expect those to be very vague. As a matter of fact, I'll take you to that website in just a moment and show you that. It's what exam numbers are assigned to the exam. All of the exam info is right there. We're here to focus in on the CCENT certification, which I would say, if I had one word to describe it, it would be foundation. It is the foundation of everything networking. It's the first of many steps, hopefully, that you'll be taking into the network world that will lay the foundation that everything else builds itself on. By the time you're done with this series, you'll be able to describe how data networks work and understand why they're used, what communication methods are used across them, and so on. You'll be able to implement a small switch network using Cisco switches. You'll be able to subnet, that's a big part of it, IP addressing, services like DHCP services on a Cisco device. We'll set up routing primarily to the internet. For a small company, you have to have a switch that connects everybody together, a router connecting them to the internet, and along with that, NAT and PAT address translation that you can share a single internet IP address for everybody in the company. You'll need to know the basics of WAN connectivity, how you would link up to an internet service provider in a corporation. You'll have a basic understanding of wireless networking, which is one of the newest technologies added to the Cisco certification program, but has big ramifications on networks today. And then finally, you'll need to know how to implement basic network security, things like SSH, Telnet. What's the difference between those two? Physical security, what kind of attacks can come against your network? All those pieces fit together to describe the CCENT. Now, this may be the first of many series that you go through. Let me tell you how to get the most and maximize your experience as you're watching these videos. First off, watch them more than once. Repetition, repetition, repetition is the key to learning information. If you go through a video and you get everything on it, that's great. But if you go through and you're like, maybe there's some hazy stuff in there, watch it again, watch it again, watch it again. I'll just give you an example. Now, this is kind of an embarrassing example, but I have seen the movie The Matrix well over 40 times. I kid you not. I think they're going to start requiring the Matrix for Cisco certification, viewing of it at least 5 times. I don't do it every weekend. It's not like a ritual. It's more of when I teach in classroom environments. I still do that about 1 week a month. I usually put it on for lunch so people can watch it during lunch, and it never fails. I'll get sucked in and watch it yet again. But my point in that is I can probably quote just about everything from that movie and every scene from that movie. I'm sure I've applied in some sort of parallel analogy in just about everything I talk about. So just by seeing it a million times and hearing the information again and again, it embeds itself in your mind. And when you're going through, don't take a passive role. Don't just kind of kick back and watch it like TV. Take notes. Write down the key information. When you hear something and you're like, oh, that's a big point, jot it down. Just make like a note list, a little notepad that you go through. In my opinion, writing is better than typing. I know it's old school, but at the same time, grab a notepad, jot down some notes, because just processing it that way helps you remember it. I don't know if you remember back in college when your professors would say, you can bring in one 3x5 note card with as many notes as you can fit for the exam. And you pack it down in like microscopic type. And I don't know if you were like me, but I ended up never using the note card, even after I wrote it, because, I ended up remembering everything that was on there because I spent so much time writing it down. And I bet those professors knew that would happen. What a scandal. Third thing is purchase a lab router. In my opinion, if you plan on being in Cisco for the long haul and really getting into it, setting it up in your own home is one of the best ways that you can do. My recommendation for a lab router is by far that 851W. It's a brand new router Cisco has come out with that I think is phenomenal, and it's under $200 or $300. You go on eBay, shop the prices on there. It gives you wireless, it gives you routing, it gives you VPNs, it gives you just about every feature. And the biggest thing is it gives you the full version of the Cisco iOS. Now, $200 to $300, I know it's an investment, but that may carry you through many of your certifications where you'll be able to set up a lot of the things that we're talking about. If you are on the ultra budget, the 2514 is my next recommended router, which I put together a giant lab for myself when I was studying for my CCIE certification, and those things ran $300 or $400 themselves back then. Now I saw recently on eBay a pack of 5 of them somebody was selling for $30. Insane drop in prices. The good news is it's got the full iOS. That's the good news. But I guess the bad news is you won't be able to use the SDM, which is now a core part of the CCENT certification. The SDM is the graphic interface that Cisco has created to manage Cisco devices. It's a GUI that you can point and click your way through many of the configurations. Everything you do on the 2514 is going to be command line. The reason I recommend that one is because it has two Ethernet interfaces, so you can actually route your internet connection for your home. Last thing, and I would say the most important thing, I know it sounds funny, but catch the network buzz. In my opinion, the people that do well in this industry and go after these certifications are people that really like it. I know it sounds so basic, but I mean, there's some people that are like, yeah, yeah, okay, that's how you configure the router. I get that, but really, I mean, the people that love it are the ones that just go after it and take these exams, get through them, get into this in the real world because if you really get into it, this is really cool stuff. I know I'm a nerd, but at the same time, I, let me tell you, my wife, not a technology person at all, went through some of the Cisco certification track and was talking about it, and it was like a monumental moment. She had never really gotten into technology, but she was going through and she goes, this is pretty neat, just to make these things work. It's like putting together, she described it as like putting together a big jigsaw puzzle. And that's kind of, I guess, if that's what floats your boat. But at the same time, it really is cool. And that's, when you get excited with it, go with that. Set stuff up. Don't just let that excitement kind of die and get wrapped up in the rest of life. Man, I feel like a motivational speaker right now. But seriously, that is a big part of it is when you get excited about the technology, you're going to do that much better about it because there's nothing that will stop you from learning more and more and more because that's what interests you. Well, let me wrap up by talking about how to prepare to take the exam. A big part of Cisco certification. Obviously, it doesn't happen if you don't pass the exam. First things first, I would check out cisco.com/certification. I do this anytime I go to take an exam because right on there, this is the certification website. They will show you the associate level. You can see CCNA is the primary core associate level certification that's required to move into the professional level certifications. Right there is the CCENT. If you want to know more about it, you just click on the CCENT exam. And it says, okay, the way to get there is to take the ICND1 exam, the 64822. Now, you're going to need that test number when you call up View to schedule your exam, so you'll want to write that down. View is currently the only testing company that does Cisco certification exams. They will find a testing center in your area, and you give them your credit card, they'll schedule your exam. You'll go take it there. Now, before I move on to View, click on the actual exam, and it will give you, well, everything about it. Right there will be the exam number 64822. ICND1. This is how long you have to take the exam. 90 minutes, 50 to 60 questions. The more questions you have, the less simulations. The more simulations, the less questions, because Cisco knows it takes longer to do that. Now, if you scroll down, you can see right here is pretty much the core pieces of what they want you to know about about the exam. This is what is on the exam: TCP/IP, OSI models, IP addressing, that sort of stuff. If you scroll down, in a bullet list format is every topic area that is going to be tested on the exam. Now, this is not one of those things where you can just say, oh, well, let me learn this bullet and then I'm ready. Because, for instance, like a bullet might be perform or verify network status and switch operation using basic utilities. So that's kind of an umbrella that you need to know: show commands, debug commands on Cisco routers, ping, telnet, those kinds of things. But if I were to say, yeah, you need to know show commands on a Cisco router, that's a broad umbrella. I mean, there's a lot of them. So I'll focus you as we go through the series as to what show commands, what kind of output you need, interpret network diagrams, these kind of things. So right as you scroll through here is every topic that they have on the exam. Also, they don't have it on this link, but there is a free from Cisco's website CCNA Prep Center. Let me click on CCNA and scroll down. Right here is the CCNA Prep Center. If you click on that, that will take you over to a free resource that Cisco has. You just have to register your name and give them your email address, so you will give them permission to spam you for the rest of your life. But in here is a good overview, of the CCNA exam. They have the paths that describe the different ways, the one test or two test path, ways to study. They have CCNA TV. And by the way, these just describe the different tabs up here that will show you, all of the different exams that are available. Right now, as I record this, Cisco is in the middle of a transition, moving from the intro and IC&D exams into the ICND1 and ICND2 exam. That was the transition that introduced the CCENT certification. So most likely by the time you go to this website, these, well, unless you go before November of 2007, will no longer be listed. All you will have access to is ICND1 and ICND2. Right next to that is exam study, and they will have, practice exams, practice questions. They have question of the week. So there's a lot of free resources that are available right from Cisco's website, right under that certification area. Now, what I would recommend on your certification exam is to schedule a date, meaning contact View, say this is the date I would like, and I usually recommend 2 weeks out from when you begin preparing for the exam, meaning you've gone through the series and now you're just starting to fill in the gaps and study. Set a date 2 weeks out. The reason I say that is twofold. Number one is if you don't set a date, a lot of people will just kind of let it drift. It's human nature to get sucked into whatever's facing you at the time. And unless you set a date and say, that is when I'm taking the exam, life will eat you away. And before long, 5 months have gone by and you go, I barely remember the stuff that I was studying 5 months ago, and you have to start over again. You can always reschedule. Let me throw that nugget out there for you. You can always reschedule the exam if you aren't feeling ready by the time that date approaches, let me preface that, as long as you reschedule it before the 24-hour window. Once you get within 24 hours of the exam, you're taking it. There's no way to rebook it at that point. So reschedule if you need to, but by setting that date, at least you have a goal to shoot for. Now, to practice exam or not to practice exam? That is the question. A lot of companies are out there that make their entire company around selling practice exams. The biggest one I've heard of is Boson, BOSON.com. The only caveat that I have with the practice exams is, sure, they're good. They give you practice questions that, of course, will never be exactly what's on the test, but it'll give you a good guide. But the only catch to that is that the practice exam usually costs nearly the same amount as taking the exam in the first place. So when I first got into the certification world, I bought practice exams. And after about the second one that I bought, I thought, for this price, I might as well just go take the test. And if I miss it, at least I have a good idea of what's on the exam. Now I know what to study. And, I actually saw the real thing rather than doing the practice exam. So that's the method that I do nowadays is I don't buy practice exams. I just go for it. And if I make it, great. If not, then I sure know the areas that I was weak on in going through that. But if you are planning on taking practice exams, be prepared to accept different question styles, meaning some practice exam companies will just be a giant list of multiple choice questions. That's not the real test. The new test, or the real test, has the different question styles, like simulations, like testlets, like all kinds of different ones. As a matter of fact, when you go to the CCNA Prep Center, one of the options that you have right there is the exam interface tutorial. That will give you every type of question that they have on the exam. You can see right there is multiple choice. Right there is the choose two, choose three. It's beautiful. Cisco revised it to remove all of the all that apply questions and replace them with choose two and choose three. Sounds like a small thing, but big deal, because choose all that apply really messes with your head. You could be like, well, Linux is kind of an operating system, or Linux is an operating system. Sorry, Google is kind of an operating system because they run applications, but choose two through choose three much better. Let me take off this little try me and just move on. They have drag and drop questions, which you will drag and drop routed versus routing protocol into the correct area and fill that out. Not all questions are created equal. Beware, don't just jump over some of those questions. There are partial credit that you can get, and this question may be worth more than just a standard multiple choice. Moving over, oh, by the way, this one is now removed from the exam. There are no more fill in the blank questions because simulations have replaced those. This is simulations, meaning I see the scenario up top. You can see the text up there. I'll have a bulleted list of objectives that the scenario wants me to accomplish, like changing the host name. And right there is a computer with a console connection to a router. I click on it, and now I have to do it. I have to go in and start getting into the configuration. I can flip back and forth between the diagram and the prompt. That is one type of question. They also have these testlets, which have a scenario up here and one or more questions about the scenario, or they could have this kind of testlet where you have a simulation and then one or more questions about the simulation where you have to do show commands or troubleshooting to answer the questions above. So that's all the question styles that they have, and be prepared if you take a practice exam, they may not reflect those same styles of questions. Last but not least is the big day when you take the exam. My recommendations is number one, arrive early. There's nothing like being late and being stressed out that they're not going to let you take the test and things like that. So arrive early. Most of the time, if you're ready, they'll let you in early and take the exam, or you can just sit and go to the restroom, study, things like that. Second, grab a cup of coffee or water if allowed. I've never seen a testing center that doesn't allow you, and take that in with you so you don't end up parched or it kind of gives you more of a relaxed thing. I'll tell you, half of what you fight when you take these exams is your own nervousness and stress. If you can make this like a little relaxing environment, bring a pillow. I don't know, as relaxing as possible, so you're not just fighting your own nerves. Third, ask for multiple sheets of quote-unquote paper. Most testing centers don't allow paper anymore. They'll give you like a laminated piece of paper and some dry erase markers. It's like a mini whiteboard. They'll usually give you multiples of those so you don't have to erase off what you've written to write more stuff if you have to work out a problem or draw up a diagram or something like that. So grab a couple of those to start. Start with the exam tutorial. That tutorial I just showed you is on the exam, meaning they'll say, would you like to start with that? Even if you've seen it before, and now you all have, do it again, because it's one of those things, they give you a bonus 15 minutes. It doesn't count against your time to go through that, and it's not so much that you haven't seen the exam before. It's just something to click through to kind of get you in the mode before you take the test, because if you skip the tutorial, it'll say, okay, question one. It's kind of like, whoa, there I am. I'm ready to go, so that's a big one. Fourth or fifth, pace yourself well. You can't go back. Cisco exams do not allow you to return to previous questions. So it'll tell you how much time you have left. It'll tell you how many questions you have left. Pace yourself well based on that. As your time ticks down, maybe pick up the pace and get through the rest of the questions. Don't spend any more than 10 minutes on the simulations, because those things can suck you in. The simulation feels like a real router or a real switch, so you'll be working with that, and you'll think, oh, I know I can do this, and you'll get into it, and 30 minutes later, sure, you may have finished the simulation, but the exam time expires. Not all questions are equal, and I should add to that, partial credit is given. As I mentioned on the drag and drop question, that question may be worth more than multiple choice. Simulations are worth more than multiple choice, and if you get some of the simulation right, you'll get some partial credit, so at least give it a try. Finally, never give up, never surrender. I pulled that, I think it was from Galaxy Quest. But never give up. This is one of those certifications that is difficult. You most likely will miss an exam at some point in your Cisco career. As a matter of fact, Cisco now offers a transcript where you can go online and see every exam you've ever taken. And I was just sitting there with my wife not too long ago. I was like, oh, let's look at that. And I've taken probably 40 different Cisco exams, just going through all of the certifications. And I was scrolling down, looking at all of them, and it's like pass, pass, fail, pass, fail. And my wife was looking with me. She goes, "Wow, you've really you've really failed a lot of exams. And I was like, thanks. No, it's kind of like, ouch. But it's true, that you're going to go in, and if you miss an exam, it's like the worst day of your life. You'll come home, kick the dog, it's brutal. But just realize at the same time, you got the experience, you got a good view of what to study, go again, just keep going at it. Now, if you've taken the exam 15 times and you still haven't passed, that might be a good indicator that you're just maybe there's other careers out there. Just kidding. But that I mean, just you will miss an exam at some point. I can almost guarantee it. Never give up. Just go back and do it again. That should give you a good idea of the two major objectives I had for this video. Number one, what is CBT Nuggets and how do we train here? How to get the most from this video series. And number two, how Cisco certification works, why I believe it's the most valuable one to get, and where you are now with certification and where you can go through the certification program, along with what the exams look like. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.